All right, welcome to this week's episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Daichi Miller here from Warrior Concepts here in East Central Pennsylvania. For those of you who are close, for those of you who are around the world, well, I'm just online at onlineninjaacademy.com. So this week, right, we're going to continue an exploration that we've been doing for a little while on my, right, distance. And it's my, right, not my. I know it's my common joke, but anyway, so what we're going to be taking a look at is a certain type of distance, right? And so I have this poll up here. We're going to take a look at three different distances, three different ranges from a classical standpoint, the way a lot of classical systems would categorize these things. Okay. Now, when I normally break these things down for students, and I'll talk about it down here as well. But when I break these things down for students, we talk about, very close range, mid-range, long range, and what weapons, and, is this grabbing distance, striking distance, kicking distance, whatever. This isn't it, right? The way we're looking at this, that actually fits inside, okay? But what I want to take a look at during this particular training is one of these classical distances. And if you saw the promotional stuff that I put out, the emails or whatever, the tagline was "Stop wasting time and space." Right? And I know it can be a little bit vague or whatever, but what I'm really talking about is what we're going to be looking at today is strategic and tactical use of virtually unused or ignored space. Okay, that could really give us a leg up, so to speak. Okay. So, but let's do this. Let's start with a story that I have from Hatsumi Sensei a long time ago. I was at a training, and there was still a lot of doubt, and there should be. There should be a healthy sense of doubt about what you're doing to make sure that you're checking and validating, to make sure that you're making sure the teacher actually knows what they're talking about, and you're not just blindly following along. Okay. I know there's this term disciple, and a lot of people like that word, right? That's my master, I'm the disciple. Yeah, but in Ninjutsu, we're learning to be free thinkers. We're learning to be critical thinkers. And ninja were warriors who operated very often on their own, not in teams. Yes, they come from a clan, but they're hundreds of miles away from home and safety and backup and all that. And so we have to be careful that we're not just, blindly following or going along with what somebody else says, right? So applying a little bit of healthy doubt is not a bad thing. Okay. Now, if you're playing a game of stump the chump every time you go to class, where you're second guessing or asking all kinds of what ifs of the teacher, that might be a little bit different. Or if the teacher's not, I don't want to say putting you in your place, but reminding you that whatever question you're asking, it doesn't matter right now because you're not able to do the basics, you're not able to do the fundamental stuff. So that, we're doing this disarm against a guy who has a gun up against my back, and that's all cool. True story. This is actually something that was brought up during a seminar I was at one time. We were doing gun disarms or gun defense, guns up against your back. You do this little thing, right? And the question was, what happens if the guy has already pulled the trigger once and shot you in the kidney, and he's going to pull it again and blow out your spine? Really? You can't even do that one yet. But in all honesty, and this is the way my teacher answered it, you die. Okay? I would highly recommend, though, that in the final moments or seconds of your life, you ask a different question, and that is, how the hell do I allow myself to get here? Okay, but we can't survive everything, so we have to admit that as well. The training isn't here to make us invincible. Anyway, back to this Hatsumi story. It's like this, right? Hatsumi Sensei was talking about, controlling distance, and it was very related to this. And somebody pops off this question. Yeah, but Sensei, what if, the attacker is on the roof of a building across the street, and he's training it on the door right there, and so when you walk out the door, he just shoots you? Soki just goes, and I walk out the door. And of course, that caused blank stares. Some people chuckled, right? Some people scoffed. I don't even remember if the person who asked the question stuck around. But this points to some of the other stuff that we've been talking about with sake and sensing the force of the killer and those kind of things that a lot of people in the martial arts, most as a matter of fact, would scoff at it, blow it off, or whatever. But the reality there is, if you're not open to it, no matter how well that thing might work, it's never going to work for you. Okay, so a lot of these things are kind of up in the air. But anyway, it was that kind of thing, right? So what if? Okay, so this range thing is going to come in here in a bit, right? So again, today we're focusing on. I'm sorry, let me back up here a little bit. Put things into context. Weekly, I pick a theme. Okay, so past week or so, I think 2 weeks ago, it was on sensing, and we covered things like this sake, this force of the killer, murderous intent, killer intent. Intent always precedes action. So if we can pick up on intent, great, right? Being sensitive to changes in the environment, changes in their tactics, their energy, their mood, that kind of stuff, right? If you're in a relationship, you're already halfway there, okay? Kokoro no Mae is actually the openness and the faculties and the ability to sense the sake, the force of the killer. And then there was this Mai. And most people, again, Mai is normally translated as distancing, okay? Just distance, right? Mai. That's timing, angling, distancing, flow, that kind of thing, right? But Mai, in the context of sensitivity, what we talked about was spatial awareness, right? Can you feel the space? It's not about a measuring tape. Can you sense it? Can you get an intuitive sense about what's too much, too far, whatever, okay? In the Kotoryu and the Gyokoryu, right? Big, heavy kind of thing, but they would call it Kuraidori. It's very much related to that. It's related to the Kukan, for those of you who've been around for a while, okay? So, but there was this idea of, like, again, sensing space. So that kind of transitioned into just looking at Mai, and we looked at it physically during last week, I think, and then this week in Kuden I flipped Mai because there's actually, and I use different words, right? And in Japanese culture, Japanese martial arts, there are other phrases that are, well, it's a different word, it's related to a different type of Mai. And so during our weekly Kuden, the podcast, I covered Mai from the perspective of 4 different but related areas that have to do with not just distance, but a timing aspect to distance, a meeting, connection kind of aspect to distance, but more, and while I related them to self-defense situations, we were also looking at protecting our sanity, right? So sometimes you got to put some distance between you and somebody else, but you might have to be in the same proximity. Coworker that's an overbearing asshole, whatever, right? So it's about the more of the psychological, spiritual, emotional kind of things that are there, right? So anyway, check it out. If you're on YouTube, it's on the live feed or the live option, right? Just go there and you'll find all the back issues of Whiteboard Wednesday and all the back issues of the Kuden, right? It's also on our website. I'll try to make sure there's a link to all this stuff in the description later after all this is done. But again, we took a look at these 4 types of Mai involving relationships from the perspective of most people in the martial arts only recognize Mai as a physical distance kind of thing, but there's other ways to look at this. And so it makes it more applicable to other types of attacks, right? Emotional attacks, psychological attacks, whatever, right? Again, these are typically missed or they're unknown opportunities for just gaining greater power and greater control over our lives, over situations and things like that, right? And so today we're going to focus on another type of Mai, right? Where, again, there lay an opportunity for gaining a greater advantage. And in this case, before he even throws the first attack, Okay. So again, what I'm going to do during this one is we're going to take a look at three terms, right, which reference three basic ranges or types of distance in a physical encounter, right, within an engagement with an attacker, as well as a little bit about what's going on into each. This isn't the end all to be all. Remember, Kuden is life mastery and personal development side of things. A little bit about martial techniques, but mostly it's the Kuden Shinden side of the three-pointed triangle, right? Taiden is what you do in class. Whiteboard Wednesday is related to Taiden. It's related to physical self-defense, but we're really looking at the strategic and tactical side more than the technique or the skill side. That's what we do during our Friday virtual training. We convert this and then we train. I work with students and virtual as well, where we're looking at how that would be applied physically against an attacker. Okay. Again, we'll be doing the same thing this week as well. Okay. All right. So again, first what we're going to do is take a look at these three terms. Then what we're going to do is take a look at this hidden opportunity. Again, that's missed by most fighters, most martial artists, self-defense practitioners, that if you could just bring it into not just your awareness, right, or your conscious level thinking, but also into your training, like night and day between what only tacticians can do, or I'm sorry, technicians, and what people at this level can do. Okay. And then finally, what we'll do is we'll take a look at how a master tactician would exploit and use this space of opportunity, this type of kukan, or a part of the kukan, to drastically change the game. Okay. But again, first, I would be remiss, and my folks that help me make sure that this stuff gets where it's going. Like, share, depending on the platform you're on, because we're on Facebook, we're on X, used to be called Twitter. We're on YouTube. Sometimes I pop these things on LinkedIn, but I don't think I have this one wired through that one today. As far as the live thing, okay? So like, share, that kind of thing. If you're over on YouTube, obviously, right, hit that bell, subscribe to the channel. That way you get notifications of things farther ahead, okay? And if you want more high-level training like this, but in the physical form, again, actual lessons where what I'm teaching is what these things look like in real time, then I'll leave a link in the description down below, or I don't know, we're playing around with the cards, little pop-up things, that, I don't know where it's going to pop up on your screen, but where there'll be a link pointing you to our Ninpo Masterclass program. Okay, this is for folks that sign in twice a week through Zoom into actually the advanced class, where we're working on a bunch of this stuff. Okay, and it's just an ongoing thing. Right now, we've got a big extra bonus package of a whole bunch of extra training going along with it as well. So anyway, that's it. Shameless plug. Right. So again, quickly, before we take a look at this space, what I want to do is I want to clarify something, because all fighters are not the same. And while we could easily say a punch is a punch, a kick is a kick, yeah, but there's motivation, there's intent, there's training and whatnot, right? So what I want to do is I want to take a look at this. Not just that fighters are not the same. Not only are they not the same, but they're also they don't focus on the same things, okay, as a primary. And I don't mean that they're not trying to beat the other person's ass or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? Just a little bit ago, I mentioned the term master tactician, okay? But we need to clarify exactly what that is, right? And to understand this lesson that I'm covering today, right? And other lessons like it, okay? So you need to understand this kind of mentality. And while there is a crossover, right, and this is not set in stone, most fighters, I'll say this again, most fighters have a mix of three different mindsets or three different focuses, that kind of thing. But typically, they lean into one of these more than the other. Okay, so again, it doesn't matter if it's martial artists, doesn't matter if it's sport fighters, doesn't matter if it's self-defense, combatants, trained or untrained, doesn't matter. They lean into certain things, into roughly 3 categories. Okay, so we'll take a look at, there we go, fighter types. Okay, so roughly 3 categories, right? So the first one is what I call technicians. Okay, it's like the guy that comes out to fix the broken copier at your office, or the guy that comes to fix your computer or whatever, a technician, right? So a technician typically is focused on technique, or they're skill oriented. And again, it's not like the other ones don't do this, because we all have techniques, we all have skills, right? But what I mean is these folks tend to just come out swinging with an eye on what they're doing, what they want to do, and they're looking for openings to be able to do that thing. Okay, so again, it's technique, skill, but again, it's focused on like them and what they want to do. Okay, it's right. I got my cool style, I got my cool techniques, whatever, and just going to go to town. Okay, what we could say is that there's just an eye on beating this guy, right? And the technician, more than anybody else, typically plays a game of being willing to take one to get one. But there's always this sense of a lottery, right? Some kind of a gamble kind of thing, where I'm hoping that my skull or body parts can take more than his, or I hope he drops before, like, I run out of steam or some part of me gets broken. Okay, so again, it's me focused, and anything that I'm doing tactically or strategically or whatever is just, I'm either looking for openings, or I'm just going to try to blast through the wall and create openings, right? So technician. Okay, the second one is a strategist, right? And some people are these, but they don't know it. So I highly recommend that once you get these 3 definitions, and again, they're very, very summarized, very truncated, but see if you can find yourself in here, because it's easy to say, no, I'm all 3. Where are you under pressure? Where are you when you're imperative? Where are you when you're anxious or worried about losing? Where does your mind go? Okay, some just go to I call it the 6-year-olds and 2 6-year-olds in a sandbox slap fighting. Okay, and just throwing a whole bunch of shit, hoping something sticks. That's a technician. The strategists are outcome driven. Okay, they're outcome driven, right? So they need the fight to end a certain way. Okay, when I was a police officer, while lots of guys do this, and that's why you need 3 or 4 people to wrestle one guy down to the ground to get him in cuffs, strategist knows I need this guy over the hood of a car, over a table, face down on the ground, so it's easy to do that pat down and get him into cuffs. Okay, he lands any other way, and we've got to get him flipped over while he's resisting. Okay, so the strategist needs it to end a certain way. In the martial arts, whether it's sport realm or street fighter or whatever, okay, for these folks, when I say that it needs to end their way, what I mean is by knockout, if they're a puncher kicker, by a pin, by a submission, that kind of thing, right? What's the win, right? How do we define the win, right? So this one is focused on the ending or the result. Okay, what constitutes a win? Is it a pin? Is it a knockout? Is it a submission, like a tap out, or backing away kind of thing? We're all looking for a win, right? But what constitutes a win? In ninjutsu, more often than not, if I can use body language and he's still lucid enough that I can use words, if I can talk this guy out of attacking and we both go home healthy and safe and nobody goes to jail or the hospital, that counts as a win as well. It doesn't for the fighter mentality. Okay, somebody absolutely must beat somebody's ass because they bumped into their shoulder, or they called their mom a name, or whatever. Okay, if I call these guys one-hit wonders, right? They gravitate to a style, right? So for ground fighters, there's the initial premise that the Gracies initiated way back in the day when when Hoist Gracie that created the UFC, created MMA, right? And the whole premise to sell it to everybody was that all fights go to the ground, so you might as well train in a system that will teach you to fight on the ground. From a very young age, I've been fighting, and as a police officer, it's not my experience. All fights do not go to the ground. Might it go to the ground? Yes. But as a cop with a gun here and other weapons on me, going to the ground is not a great place to go. Okay? And especially falling down and doing break falls with a handcuff case here and a baton or an asp over here and a 3 or 4 pound solid block of metal called a pistol right. Not a good idea. I don't give a shit what you're doing. Not a good idea. Okay. So, but people do this to kind of sell things and then they gravitate toward that, or that's still the ending, no matter how many other styles they cross train in. Okay. I'm not here telling anybody how to train. Okay. I'm part of what I'm doing is pointing out things that everyone should understand about the problem when it comes to self-defense or survival-based self-defense. Because everybody that dukes it out with their friends and the cops pull them apart, both of them swear to God they were just defending themselves. Huge difference between a fight and a self-defense situation. Huge. Okay. Okay. So we have technicians, we have strategists, right? And then we have what I mentioned earlier, tacticians. Right? Tacticians, right? So if we think about 3 different aspects to our training to begin with, right? We have techniques. These are the things that we do with our body parts and body to their body parts and body. Okay? They're the skills. Okay? Techniques. We have strategies. We have outcomes, right? How do I need this guy to end up? Do I need him down into submission? Do I need him unconscious? Do I need him worse than unconscious? Right? Or do I need this guy screaming like a little girl running down the street? Okay? That's a strategy. What's the outcome? Okay? If somebody breaks into my house, I've already told the local cops, all exits from my house are at least 1 story off the ground. So pick me up, do whatever you need to. They all know because I keep a good reputation with them, right? They just tell me, just give us a call and tell us where to pick them up. But anybody breaks into my house. But here's the thing. They come into the dojo. We have a dojo invader system, right? That everybody knows how to implement when somebody comes in to try to do something stupid. But if they come into my house, depending on where we are, hopefully it's near one of the doors, back door, side door, foyer, front door, whatever, right? My first inclination is going to be to get them back out the closest portal that they came in, okay? And so everything that I do, every maneuver I make, every technique that I apply or whatever should move them in that direction. Anything that I do that moves them in an opposite direction prolongs things or allows them into the inner sanctum where now my family is more in danger, right? Same thing with police officers. Again, I needed to get them face down in this particular space. Anything I do that drops them on their side, on their back, it just causes the need for more work, right? So strategies are how do I need them to end up? But tactics are the bridge between these two. The strategy tells me where I need to put them. That's going to eliminate 90% of the techniques and skills that I know because there's only going to be certain things that are going to move them in that direction. Okay? Omote gyaku, mushadori, onikudaki, or rear hip throw. Take this guy on his back. Okay? Ura gyaku, muso dori, ganseki, done a certain way, right? Ganseki osai, not ganseki nage proper, right? These things put the person 1 point landing, like a plane coming in, but the landing gear is not down. Okay, puts him right on his chest. Okay, if I want this guy down on his face, I probably want to be to the outside of the attack, working this way. right, to get him to go this way. Okay. So tactics are the things that I do: positioning, timing, how I draw them out, which directions I move, how I set things up to accomplish the strategy, right? But how to accomplish the strategy with the techniques as easy as possible. So it's going to make the strategy happen more smoothly and quickly, but tactics also set things up so it's much easier and quicker to apply the technique that will lead to the strategy. Okay. So tacticians, right? Tacticians are efficiency driven. Okay. Everybody wants effectiveness, but they're efficiency driven. Right. So what's the best way? Right. How do I set things up? What's the best position that when this guy throws that punch that he's just dying to throw, he gets into range, he throws that punch, and whipping that mushadori on or that onikudaki or whatever, because I know how the arm needs to be positioned, right? That kind of thing. Okay. Tacticians are also highly adaptable, but this is the bridge between these two. Okay, and that's really where we're coming at, right? So again, as a tactician, how do we do this in the quickest way, the most effective way, with the least resources, least amount of energy, least amount of wear and tear on me in the process, based on what we know about him, his techniques, his preferences, those kind of things, right? So kind of a long-winded way of backhandedly pointing at where we're going, okay? So again, there's crossover. Every fighter, right? Everyone uses all three to a degree, right? But everyone tends to lean into, right? And while some people in the dojo or when everything's working well, they might equally apply these things, when they start to panic or when things go sideways and they're worried about losing, right? Or they're struggling to still get a win, you'll see where they lean into things. Okay. One of these people will back out, reassess, let the fight reset to zero, and come back in so they can have another chance at producing an outcome. Right. One of these, as things change, they will adapt to the change, right, in a way that still allows. So what they'll do is they'll drop techniques that they originally had. Things changed, then the techniques have to change, right, to be able to produce this. That's these guys. And some people will just fucking struggle harder. They'll try to do things faster. They'll try to do things harder. They'll get locked up with somebody, that kind of thing. You'll see it very easily, right? It's the same thing with anybody with their personality type. Anybody can tell you anything they want when they're trying to become a friend, they're trying to get a job, they're trying to be an intimate or a significant other, whatever. But it's not until you see them when they're afraid or when they are angry that you really see what kind of a team player or what kind of a partner they're really going to be. Whether they're going to play escapist and leave you to clean up the fucking mess or to solve the problem, or they're going to throw you under the bus, leaving you to do the same thing except with extra damage, right? Or they're might have a moment, right? Wig out, and then they're going to be in there with you, helping that happen. Okay. Took, well, 4 previous iterations for me to find a life partner, right? My wife, that's pretty much the way it works. She has her moment, and then, but we're in this together. So there is no under the bus throwing or whatever. And if there is responsibility to had, or not really blaming or whatever, but I told you so, that happens after the problem has been solved, right? Or in that brief wig out moment. But either way, it's we're in this together. So let's go. Okay. So again, 3 different fighter types. They all have style. They all have techniques. They all, right? But where do they lean? Okay. Where do they lean? All of these have a lot of value. Okay. But we're going to lean into this master tactician kind of idea. Okay. So next, let's take a look at a framework used by many classical Japanese martial arts to describe 3 different distances. Okay. And while this is going to look like it's a close range, long range, mid range kind of thing, that's not the way it works. Okay. So the first one that we'll talk about here is has a really long name to it. It's Isoku Ito no Mai. Okay, Isoku Ito no Mai. Okay, so Isoku, one step, Ito, one blade, one sword, distance, Mai, distance. So one step, one blade, distance. What this is perfect distance for the technique, the strike, whatever it is you're trying to do. You don't have to adapt, adjust, or whatever. One step, it's right there. Now, what kind of step? Could be a lead, could be a cross, could be a lunge, right? To understand this, you have to understand the reference that's being made, okay? It's not just one step, one blade, like a single cut kind of thing, and everything's over. You have to understand what part of the blade they're trying to touch a target with. That's the ideal. Cuts through the body part, like the whole thing, like butter, right? So it just takes it out quickly, right? So we're throwing the boshi, we're throwing that end piece first, what we might in the imperial system call 1 to 3 inches, right? Where it'll just cut through this thing. And then there's a next section, cuts really well, but not as well. Next section, pretty much, and then pretty soon leverage goes against you. But this is about tagging with that perfect spot. Same thing with any fist, right? What's the ideal range? Well, you're going to have to know the length of your limbs, the length of each part. You have to know. This is another part of know thyself. There's another part of seishin teki kyoyo. There's another part of shiku, not just shiku oshinobu, but mi oshinobu. But how do you get that so you don't have to like choke up to do the strike, or you don't have to reach out to do it, or you're not clipping off of things, right? So when it comes to these things, it's not just what I want to tag him with, but what's the best point on the body for the cut, and what's the best timing for these things to come together. Okay, that was if you caught this past week's Kuden, right? Episode 235. For those of you who didn't, that was that meeting type of Mai that we talked about. Okay, so this is perfect, right? Okay, see how I'm not talking about close, mid, long. There's a close, mid, long, perfect. Okay, but there's this knowing this ideal that when it's there or it's coming into place, done. Okay, this isn't like trading shots, right? Like I've had people under my videos flat out say, "Oh, your O2 use sucks, man. There's no way you could stick out multiple 2-minute rounds, 5-minute rounds." Are you fucking high? This is for self-defense and survival. The average self-defense situation is over in 2 to 10 seconds, right? At best, it'll last as long as maybe one of these rounds. Okay, the average active shooter, right? Workplace violence, active shooter kind of scenario is over in under 10 minutes, and that's with lulls in action. So you're not going full bore like a sport contest where it's not just about who wins and who loses. It's really an endurance contest. Okay, so yeah. But I'm not trying to do that. That's not my focus. Okay, people would boo and want their damn money back in a sport contest, and it's happened in the past. Very famous fights, right? That knockout happens in the first 10 seconds. People came to watch an ass kicking. They want to see two bruisers slug it out so we could see a good fight. Like that, right? Self-defense and survival. And the consequences of failure is usually higher than most people want to pay. Okay? But either way, we have Isoku Ito no Mai, which is the perfect range. Next one is called To-Maai. Chica. Right? My Latino friends, brothers and sisters, this is not chica like a chica. No. Okay? Chica. Okay? To-Maai. Mai. Okay? Mai is always distance, right? Or spatial awareness, that kind of thing. Chica means near, so it implies close range. Okay, To-Maai is the range where both combatants can throw something at each other. Okay, so I'll talk about something here in a bit, so that you kind of get the crux of this near and far kind of thing. But this is both people are in range. Somebody can throw something, and when I say in range, when we talk about the Kukan, We want to be just outside the kukan. You don't throw anything in there that you're not willing to give up for the rest of your life. But we're right at the edge, so we can initiate. We can tag them on the other side. Might have to reach a little bit farther. It's not perfect range, okay? It's close enough that shit can fly, okay? And there is a bridge in here, just like tacticians or tactics, bridge here. There's a bridge here as well, okay? So, Isoku Ito no Mai, and we have To-Maai, and then we have To-Maai, okay? This is where we're focusing, okay? To, hold it longer. To, not to, okay? To-Maai. Okay? I know. Some people are going to go, well, if that's close range, then that's long range. It implies long range, but to means far or distant. Okay? I want you to think about this. We're actually right now engaged in a form of To-Maai relative to some future attacker that you might encounter. The threat's not around, so we're way away from it. This is what allows us to be relaxed and study. Same thing within the dojo, whatever. And while there are dangers that come because he's throwing a punch and all that kind of stuff, there's this. We're not just out of range; we're like way out of range. Okay, but this is not just physical, right? If you followed last week's training, the week before, when we talked about Mai, it's not limited to just physical distance, right? There's a psychological Mai. There's an emotional Mai where you can distance yourself, that kind of thing, right? So are you attached and in there and intimate? Are you in range, again, mentally, emotionally, or whatever, where the words that they're using sting, that kind of thing, right? Or are you able to distance yourself so it doesn't affect you? Okay, so there's a psychological aspect of these things as well, okay? So that's the three, right? So we have To-Maai, To-Maai, and Isoku Hito Mai. There is a bridge in here, okay? Because in range for attacks to happen and too far away for attacks to happen really are dependent on weapon systems, okay? Because if he has a long staff and I'm unarmed, I'm at To-Maai for him, but he's at To-Maai for me, because I can't get close enough if he's maximizing the use of that staff or a sword or a gun or whatever. Okay, very, very different. Okay, but even with bodies, okay, anybody that's connected to us and following along, like in any of the module relaunch things that we're doing, sometimes the partner that I have helping me shooting video and teaching the lessons is my height, give or take. Right. And other times it's like James Alexander, right? James is like 6'4", 6'5", something like that. I'm 5'6". Okay. There's a little bit of a height disparity. Okay. Which means his legs are longer, which means he can take a longer gait, or his gait. Each individual step is bigger, right? His gait is like 1.5 of mine, right? For a single step. Okay. His arms are longer than mine. His torso is longer than mine, which generally means that his reach is longer than mine. Okay, so you could have somebody where it could be where shots can be taken, but a smaller person can get into a position against a bigger person closer, where they're able to tag things easily and well, and the bigger person, because of length and all that, have a hard time getting at them because of size. Conversely, you change that distance. Short guy can't get at them, but the long guy can slam the shit out of them, or the guy with the weapon or whatever. Okay, so this isn't like fixed. It's just that this is a very basic way, right, to understand these things. So, what the hell am I talking? Why be doing all this stuff? Well, again, it's this To-Maai that we're doing. But how the hell is this an opportunity if we're actually, both of us are out of range and neither of us can initiate something? I mean, I guess we could jump around and try to scare the guy or whatever, but that's not what I'm talking about. Okay. The conventional thought behind these definitions is that in this To-Maai, we can't do anything. Okay, he can't get at us, but we can't get at him either. Okay, in last night's master's class, in the To-Maai class, we were taking a look at, as we avoid, can we be just missed? Okay, because this is very different, right? This is for Shodans going to Nidan, and then everybody passed that level in our curriculum. So if you're going through the Bujinkan curriculum almost exclusively, then our Nidan is 8th to 9th Dan in the Bujinkan system. Not my words, Hatsumi Sensei's words. Okay? Why is there a discrepancy? Hatsumi Sensei's already discussed this stuff. Okay? In Japan, they don't have to worry about self-defense, so they can be doing it more the classical way and doing it more as a way to think and a way that relates more to personal development, stuff like that. Okay? In this country, right? But remember, they got to 8th and 9th Dan in Bujinkan ranking, time-wise, about the same amount of time that it took them to get to Nidan in my ranking system, because we also have to worry about the way Westerners perceive martial arts and martial arts belt rank. And if you were training in Japan, there's no statement of right or wrong or whatever, because they outrank me, they're now Soke, whatever. Okay? Although, heads up for those in the Bujinkan, many of these Soke have already said that they're going to be readjusting how people get ranked, how ranking is done, and the time limits and things like that. So things are going to be different, right? But up to this point, previously, if you lived in Japan and you consistently went to class a couple of times, once or twice a week, you'd have a Shodan in 6 months. Holy shit. It takes 2 to 4 years as an average here in the States for other martial arts, which is one of the reasons why historically the Bujinkan was a laughing stock, because people are running around friggin' Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, or whatever. Okay? And that equivalent, not techniques and not historical knowledge and whatnot, but skill proficiency in handling a bad situation, huge disparity, right? But so the time to get to either one, but the amount that the person knows by Nidan, just right? Anyway. So for beginners, the beginner tends to be worried about getting hit, because they in their head they can't separate getting hit from getting hurt, from getting damaged. They can't separate getting hurt because nerve endings got tagged, but the brain didn't get shaken around and nothing broke, from getting hurt as in damaged. These are not mutually inclusive. Okay, so they tend to err, and we allow for them to err on the side of being too far away. Okay, but for a Nidan, for a Shodan working on Nidan and everybody above that, the truth is that the farther we step away and the more space we put in between the end of that strike and how far away we are, we have to make that up to get back in there. Okay, so yeah, he can't touch me, but you know what? I can't touch him either. So beginner distance almost forces a To-Maai. You were in range originally, you moved, but now you put it too big. And yep, he can't touch you without stepping, but you know what? You can't touch him without stepping either. Okay? So, and again, near doesn't imply that we're like trading shots. Okay? So anyway, again, conventional thought behind these definitions typically is that we can't do anything here. He can't do anything, I can't do anything. Okay? But just because we can't throw physical attacks, just because I can't punch, grab, kick, stab, cut, whatever, doesn't mean that we can't do anything. And this is where we have to understand the difference between hard skills, martial techniques, things I'm doing with my body, to his body, and things that fall in the strategy and tactical realm. Hence Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Okay, so again, doesn't mean we can't do anything. Okay, so what we can do and what that looks like, again, for those of you new to this and this is your first experience, I'm not the dancing monkey for this. I'm not showing physical things. This is for people who want high level situational control that helps them choose best techniques, best tactics, that kind of thing, right? How do we control the bubble? How do we control his perceptions? Those kind of things. This is the realm of mastery, not just the realm of somebody who's really good at whatever martial art or just a good fighter. Okay. All right. So we need to get through this very really quickly. So Friday, right? There's the link to get signed up for the Friday virtual training. If you want to be in for that, you can go in, get signed up and whatnot. And even if you can't make it, right, you're still getting the recording to the lesson. Okay. So if you can join in live, great. You'll get feedback. I can see what you're doing if you're shadow boxing things. And if you can't make it, that's okay. You still get the recording, and you could always email a question or something like that. All right. So that being said, okay. So let's take a look at, and again, these were just a couple of things that I tossed out here just off the top of my head for what we could do, how we can use this space. Right, we're way far away from them, but what can we do so that by the time we get to here and he can launch that thing, we have the best fortification, right? The best fortified position. We have already controlled his perceptions and we've limited his options and all those kind of things. We've set ourselves up for the greatest chance of success while making it as difficult as possible for him to do what he prefers. Okay. So how do we go about doing that? Right. So again, a lot of people, they will close in or they'll rush in. They'll do dumbass shit like, take their jacket off and peacock and all that kind of stuff. So when they get in there, what they're trying to do is intimidate the guy. I think what they're doing is they're trying to fluff themselves up. If you know a certain niche in the movie industry, you know what fluffing is. Anyway, and if you don't, well, not hard to find. Okay. So again, very, very quickly, 4 things that we can do in that time. We've got time, we have space, we're not in danger yet, right? So how about if we actually apply the kidneys so that we're actually doing things. And while a lot of these we're preparing, he sees them and it's affecting his choices and perceptions about what you're able to do as well. Okay. So the first thing is just really, really easy, right? It's observe. Okay. I don't know why that's changing, however. Okay. So we're going to observe, right? Observe what? Okay. If anybody that trains with us, you know that we've got that the 5 Ds of effective self-defense when an actual engagement is going on, right? And it begins and ends with discern. Okay. What am I paying attention to? I'm watching for signs about what his fight style is. Most fighters, believe it or not, way out of range, will take up their stuff and then they'll move in. Well, the whole time you're doing that, if he's done research, if he's done training in other martial arts, if he has the experience, he already knows what you're about to do. Okay. So heads up, that'll be over there in the don'ts, right? So, but I want to pay attention, right? The way he moves, is he getting light on his feet? Does he sink down and hunker? Does he start to maneuver like he's going to move in and try to get his hands on me? That kind of thing, right? What is he telling me? But I can also be observing and paying attention and being more sensitive to ground surface. How well do my footwear that I chose for today match this dew-soaked grass that I'm standing on? Or I lived in Europe for a little over 3 years. Okay, nothing quite like those stones that are in the old cities. What the hell are they called? Black. Anyway, sorry, jumped out of my head. But a little bit of a light misty rain, they get really, really slippery. Okay, we got winter setting in, so that's going to change things. But I could be wearing heavy boots, could be wearing flip-flops, whatever. Okay? I don't particularly wear those kind of things. Not that I think I have ugly feet, but I think feet are the ugliest part of the human body. Anyway, so, but I can be paying attention to those things, okay? Clothing, whatever, right? What can help me? What can hinder him? What can I use to help me? What can I use that he's bringing against him, right? So this is the perfect time to be thinking about those kind of things, okay? So yeah, so I can observe, right? Spend that time gathering information, okay? For those of you in ninjutsu, okay, you're either, or you're training to be a ninja, right? Number one skill of a ninja is what? No, it's not when to hit, how to hit, outmaneuvering the guy. It's information gathering. Okay? Information gathering. Most important or most deadly weapon the ninja owns. Okay? So next thing, right? Use of this space is we want to control the space. So we want to stay just out of range to limit exposure, right, to surprise attacks. Okay? So we want to manage the space. Right? We want to recognize that that kukan is not two-dimensional. Just between he and I, there's lateral movement and all that. Unless I'm in a narrow hallway, right, I can move, and if I move this way, right, part of me is going to get closer to him. Part of me is going to get farther away. But if I move in a direction that I perceived as being his weak side, then he's going to adjust to make that not just his weak side, but his bad side, right? Students in here hear all the time. Every time they're making a mistake with something, they're, this is my weak side, this is my bad side. Can't I just change sides? No, because you don't know which side the bad guy's coming in on, right? You have to be equally good on both sides with all techniques and skills. Okay? Not my words, their words, right? Not my words. So because you don't know where things are coming from, and the closer to you relationship wise the attacker is, the more they know your weaknesses and preferences. Okay? They'd be a moron to not come at you in the areas, in the directions and whatnot you've chosen not to train. Okay? I promise. If I ever pop a gasket or you pop a gasket and it's me and you, I'm going to exploit every weakness that I've learned about you. It's warfare. Okay? Not a fair fight. Yeah, it is. Not my fault that you didn't do proper training. Okay? So we're going to manage the space. Okay? Other thing that we can do is get a sense of or feel his intentions, right? Kind of try to get a sense of his mood, his commitment, right? His energy. Does this seem like it's an opportunistic kind of thing? Or whether I know this guy or not, does this seem like I'm being targeted and he's pissed off at me? He's not trying to mug me for money. He's not just having an anger management moment and I got it on his radar. If it's about me, everything changes, right? So the more I can know about the who, what, why, where, and those kind of things, right, the better off. Okay. And then during this, as I'm collecting this information, not just collecting it, I'm collecting it so I can assess and determine the best strategy, right, based on what I'm picking up and the environment and other people that are standing around that could be allies to him, that might be good Samaritans that come rushing in, that might be with people that just whip up their freaking cameras and now they're not just collecting video to post it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. Those phones can be subpoenaed. As soon as you see cameras come up, I know it's easy to go, well, motherfucker, you could be calling 911. You could be getting some help. You could step in here and help. Okay? As a ninja, I'm thinking I either need to cover my moves based on a camera angle, right? Or I need to do something that distorts what they're seeing, okay? Because they're not just, they think they're recording so they can be the first one to post it on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, but they're actually producing evidence against you in court. Okay? So we have to take that into account as well. Okay? So we're assessing to make decisions. Okay? To decide. Okay, decide what techniques, strategy, tactics, what mode, right? How do I approach this? Okay, and very quickly, then there's some don'ts, right? Let me just change color here, so it stands out a little bit more. Okay, so equally got 4 don'ts. They're not all exactly opposite. Okay, so first one is don't waste this precious time and space. Don't waste it. Don't do what everybody else does. And they don't start getting their head wrapped around what he's doing until he actually physically is in range to start doing something. Because if you get clocked by the first or second one and you're dizzy, you're not going to be assessing shit. Okay? You can do that maybe if you wake up later. Okay? Second thing is don't wait until you're almost in range to start gathering information about his fight style. Okay? So again, it's still about don't waste time, but when I'm talking about gathering information, actually, let me change that just a little bit, right? Don't wait. Let's see, I'll just write don't wait. Don't wait. There's lots of things in here. Don't wait until to start proactively controlling the bubble. Okay? Don't wait to be proactive. Okay? Here's an advanced lesson given to the newest students in Japan, in Ishizuka Sensei's dojo. I've heard Hatsumi Sensei say it, Oguri, Senno, that kind of thing, right? To think about attacking is attacking. Okay? So he might not be in fight stance, but if he's giving you that freaking stink eye, he's giving you that glare or whatever, okay? The attack has already begun. Okay? While he's moving in, whether the fists are up or not, okay? Trust me, he's watching you. Now, he has a preferred method. He has a preferred way of beating people's asses, okay? But he's doing the calculations in his head as he's moving in. If you're not, if you're just Zen meditation, watching, well, shit, okay? So don't waste time to be proactive, okay? Number 3, don't do either of these. Don't be in a hurry to rush in, and don't be in a hurry, or don't wait for him to close the gap. Okay? So don't rush and don't wait. Okay? What I mean by that is you're going to have to assess quickly. Okay? Is this something where this guy is he's kind of acting suspicious and he's moving and he's kind of closing in on you, but he's tentative? In that case, I want to move in as quickly as possible. I want to get to the edge of that kukan, this To-Maai, right, before he gets a chance to get his plan to gear, right? If he's rushing in, I'm not waiting for him to close the gap, right? If he's rushing, then I'm going to maintain space. Remember what I said? Manage the space. Not hold it, not take it, not give it up, not evade. Okay? So be real careful. Okay. I guess I have a bonus one here, right? No. Okay. So last one I'm going to give you for today is let's see. Don't show. I'm just going to put show. Okay. Don't show your fight style. Don't show your intentions. What we're going to work on Friday, one of the drills I'm going to give you is how and when to take up To-Maai relative to him moving in. Okay? If you take it up too soon, his brain will it'll look at the form that you're in and start figuring out entry points or how he'll attack that fortification, right? So you got to be careful, right? And yes, we can take up one and then we can change it or whatever. That's a tactic, right? But there's a lot of other ones in here too. Like, don't have favorite techniques. Okay. See, all the way back to here, all the way back to your training in the dojo. We're not even on the field or in the parking lot or whatever where this shit's going to come together. And that's from higher ups as well. Now that I have preferences. Okay. It's not a style-based system. It's a principle and concept-based system that gives you lots of options so that you can do this based on the context of the situation, the fight style of the attacker, right? And a whole bunch of other things, the environment that you're in and all that, okay? But ego likes to pick favorites and then just focus on those because it makes it easier, right? It fits into a lazy mindset and lifestyle where I don't think that much. I'm already good at this stuff. So I've heard people in this art alone, right, admit that if they can't start by going to Ichimonji, they're absolutely lost. Okay. 1, talk about being super limited. 2, you just said that publicly. That's it. Like now after the voting was just in here in the States, okay, there's people publicly putting on social media about being a part of a resistance and you know, creating resistance cells and stuff like. What are you, fucking more? You got to be an idiot. Okay. So it's okay that somebody maybe knows that you can protect yourself, you know, some self-defense, you know, martial art, whatever. But to know exactly what you're doing, that's like these survivalists and preppers who tell everybody that they've got, you know, how much stores in their prepper set or their bug out kits or whatever, right? What you just told them is when the shit hits the fan and all the stores have been raided and all the shelves are empty, they're coming to your store. Well, I got guns. Well, you only have so much ammunition. And if all your neighbors gang up to take your shit, okay? Again, people are often like teenagers. What that means is they've got some answers for everyday things and they thought it through, okay? But they haven't thought about the big picture because it takes too much damn work. Okay? I guess that really comes down to how much does your life depend on, or how much do you think your life is worth? Okay? So anyway, quick recap. This To-Maai, what would seem to be we're out of range and we can't do anything as far as a physical attack is actually a blessing. It's a hidden opportunity because that gives us time to assess, right? To manage all those kind of things. So when he finally takes that first shot, we've already gained a butt ton of control, okay? Because one of the primary principles I learned as a white belt in this art, so one of my first lessons, is that a ninja takes control from the attacker long before the attacker ever realizes that he lost it. Okay? So hopefully I'll see you on Friday for the virtual training. If not, I've given you hopefully enough to think about from a couple of different perspectives. And if not, I don't know why you stuck on for an hour, unless you were just trying to avoid the wife or avoid work. But you do you, boo. Okay, so that's what I have for this one. Okay, I will see you again. If I don't see you in one of the virtual classes, if I don't see you in the dojo, because my local guys are watching this as well, then I'll catch you next week on Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. All right, see you then. Train hard or hard enough.